Let me tell you something real today. One of the most powerful moves you can ever make in life is to focus on yourself and stay silent. I didn't say be weak. I didn't say be scared. I said be quiet and be focused. Because see, when you're talking too much, you're leaking energy. And when you're explaining yourself to everybody, you're giving power to people who don't even believe in your dream. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey, let me talk to you about silence, because silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers. Silence is full of strength. Silence is full of protection. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you are not running from the world. You are choosing yourself. And that choice right there, that's a powerful one. See, everybody wants to be heard, but very few people understand the value of being quiet. Silence protects your vision. When God gives you something, he doesn't give it to a committee. He gives it to you. And the fastest way to kill a vision is to announce it to people who don't have the capacity to understand it. Some folks don't want clarity. They want control. Some folks don't want to support you. They want to slow you down. When you start moving differently, people start asking questions. Why are you so quiet? Why are you not explaining yourself? Why are you not telling us what you're doing? Because peace don't need permission. Growth don't need validation. And progress don't need an audience. Silence protects your peace. Let me tell you something real. Peace is expensive. It costs you distractions. It costs you arguments. It costs you explaining yourself to people who already made up their minds about you. When you stay silent, you stop feeding chaos. You stop responding to every opinion. You stop giving your energy to things that don't move you forward. And energy, that's your real currency. Not money, not fame, energy. What you give your attention to is what grows. So when you argue with negativity, negativity grows. When you explain yourself to doubters, doubt grows. But when you stay silent and stay focused, discipline grows, confidence grows, results grow. Silence also teaches you patience. You learn how to sit with yourself. You learn how to hear your own thoughts. You learn how to hear God, because God don't yell. He whispers. And if your life is too loud, you'll miss the instruction. That's why some people stay stuck. They can't hear because they won't quiet down. Let me say this clearly. Not everybody deserves access to you. Not everybody deserves an explanation. Not everybody deserves a seat at your table. Silence is how you set boundaries without arguing. Silence is how you say no without disrespect. Silence is how you protect what's sacred. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you stop reacting emotionally. You start responding intentionally. You don't jump at every trigger. You don't defend every lie. You don't chase every misunderstanding. You understand something powerful, that people will believe what they want to believe anyway. So why waste your breath? Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them doubt. While they talking, you working. While they guessing, you growing. While they watching, you building. And one day, your silence will make sense to everybody. See, loud success is built on quiet discipline. Nobody sees the early mornings. Nobody sees the lonely nights. Nobody sees the prayers, the tears, the sacrifices. They only see the result and think it happened overnight, but it didn't. It happened in silence. Silence makes you dangerous in a good way. Because when people don't know your next move, they can't block it. When they don't know your plans, they can't sabotage them. When they don't know your weaknesses, they can't use them against you. That's why every level up requires a level of quiet. The higher you go, the less you talk. The more focused you become, the less you explain. You don't see eagles making noise, they soar. It's the chickens that cluck all day and never leave the ground. And let me tell you something else, silence heals you. Talking too much about your pain keeps you in it. Replaying the story keeps reopening the wound. Sometimes healing happens when you stop explaining what hurt you and start building what will save you. Focus on yourself means investing in your mindset, your habits, your discipline. It means correcting yourself instead of complaining about others. It means asking, what do I need to fix in me, instead of why are they doing this to me? That shift changes everything. When you stay silent, you stop needing approval. You stop chasing applause. You stop depending on outside validation to feel worthy. You know who you are, even when nobody claps. You know your value, even when nobody sees it yet. And here's the truth. Your silence will make some people uncomfortable because they were used to you explaining, apologizing, justifying, overgiving. When you stop doing that, they feel the shift. Don't let their discomfort pull you back into noise. Silence is not you losing your voice. Silence is you choosing when to use it. And when you finally speak, people listen because they know you don't talk just to talk. You talk with purpose. So focus on yourself. Move quietly, protect your peace, guard your vision, let your work introduce you, let your growth explain you, let your results speak for you. And remember this, sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is saying nothing at all. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey, let me talk to you about focusing on yourself because a lot of people get this part twisted. When you focus on yourself, people say you selfish. They say you changed. They say you acting brand new. No, you didn't become arrogant. You became aware. There's a big difference between confidence and ego, and most people don't know where that line is because they never took the time to work on themselves. Confidence comes from doing the work when nobody is watching. Ego comes from wanting credit before the work is done. When you focus on yourself, you're not saying you're better than anybody else. You're saying you're responsible for who you become. And that right there is maturity. See, insecure people need noise. They need attention. They need approval. They need somebody clapping every step they take. Confident people don't move like that. They're comfortable being unseen. They're comfortable being underestimated. They're comfortable knowing who they are without having to announce it. When you focus on yourself, you stop comparing. Comparison is one of the quickest ways to destroy your confidence. The moment you start measuring your life against somebody else's highlight reel, you lose sight of your own journey. You don't know what they sacrificed. You don't know what they prayed for. You don't know what they survived. So why are you measuring your process against their outcome? Real confidence is quiet. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It doesn't need to dominate a room. It doesn't need to prove a point. It just walks in and knows, I belong here. And that confidence only comes when you've spent time working on yourself, your discipline, your mindset, your habits, your healing. Let me tell you something. When you focus on yourself, you start fixing things instead of defending them. You stop blaming everybody else for where you are. You stop pointing fingers. You start asking real questions like, what do I need to change? What do I need to learn? What do I need to let go of? And that's when growth shows up. Ego avoids accountability. Confidence welcomes it. Ego says, I'm right. Confidence says, I'm willing to learn. Ego needs to be seen. Confidence is secure being unseen. That's why focusing on yourself builds real strength. You're not performing for people anymore. You're progressing for yourself. When you stop chasing validation, you gain freedom. You don't need everybody to like you. You don't need everybody to understand you. You don't need everybody to agree with you. You know who you are. You know what you bring to the table. And if somebody don't see your value, that don't reduce it. It just means they're not your audience. Confidence also teaches you how to sit alone without feeling lonely. A lot of people can't stand themselves in silence. That's why they stay busy. That's why they stay loud. That's why they stay distracted. But when you focus on yourself, you learn how to enjoy your own company. You learn how to sit with your thoughts. You learn how to hear your own voice. And let me say this, confidence is built through consistency, not compliments. Compliments fade. Applause dies down. But discipline stays. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, your confidence grows. Every time you choose growth over comfort, your confidence grows. That's why people get uncomfortable when you start focusing on yourself, because you stop needing them, not in a disrespectful way, but in a healthy way. You stop depending on their approval. You stop shrinking to make them comfortable. You stop dimming your light so they don't feel insecure. And that ain't ego. That's self-respect. When you focus on yourself, you also learn how to take correction without collapsing. Because your confidence isn't fragile. It's not built on praise alone. It's built on self-awareness. You can hear feedback and not feel attacked. You can be corrected and not feel disrespected. That's growth. Ego gets offended easily. Confidence listens. Ego argues. Confidence adjusts. Ego needs to win every conversation. Confidence knows when to walk away. Let me tell you something powerful. People who focus on themselves don't envy others. They get inspired. They don't hate success. They study it. They don't feel threatened by somebody else winning because they understand there's room for everybody at the top who's willing to work. And when you focus on yourself long enough, your confidence becomes unshakable. Not because life gets easy, but because you get stronger. Criticism won't break you. Rejection won't stop you. Delays won't discourage you. Because your confidence isn't rooted in opinions, it's rooted in effort. That's why staying silent matters too. You don't need to announce your confidence. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to flex it. Confidence don't talk much. It shows up prepared. It shows up disciplined. It shows up consistent. So when you focus on yourself, you're not becoming cold. You're becoming centered. You're not becoming arrogant. You're becoming assured. You're not separating from people. You're aligning with who you truly are. And once you get there, once that confidence is built the right way, nobody can take it from you, not failure, not opinions, not doubt, because it wasn't given to you by people. You earned it by working on yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey, let me tell you something real today. Not everyone deserves access to your plans. Not everyone deserves to know what you're working on. Not everyone deserves to hear your dreams. And the moment you understand that, you start living on a whole different level. People will try to convince you that sharing everything makes you transparent, honest, or trustworthy. No, it can also make you vulnerable, distracted, and delayed. Some folks are not ready to cheer for you. They're only ready to critique, sabotage, or steal your energy. And when you give them the blueprint of your life, you're handing over the keys to people who may not have your best interests at heart. This is why staying silent is one of the most underrated power moves in life. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Some of the greatest movers and shakers in history never announced their next steps. They never shouted their plans to the world. They quietly built, and the results spoke for them. When you stay silent, you are controlling your energy. You are conserving your focus. You are protecting your peace. And let me tell you something, peace is priceless. People ask me all the time, Steve, how do I deal with those who don't support me? And I tell them this, you don't have to waste your time trying to convince people who don't believe in you. Instead, redirect that energy back into yourself. Work on your craft. Sharpen your skills, heal your mind, strengthen your body, and polish your character. You'll notice something magical happens. Your progress becomes your loudest statement, and you won't have to explain a thing. People will see it, and they'll either step up or step aside. Here's the thing, not everyone is supposed to understand your journey. Some people are living their own distractions, their own dramas, their own insecurities. They will never get why you're pushing so hard, why you're sacrificing, why you're saying no to certain things, or why you're walking away from people and situations that don't serve you. And that's okay. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to approve. You don't need them to witness your entire process. Your vision is yours, and God put it in your heart for a reason. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you start noticing patterns you didn't see before. You start recognizing who adds value and who takes it away. You start understanding that some relationships are toxic, not because the other person is evil, but because they're not equipped to support your growth. You start seeing that gossip, opinions, and unsolicited advice are just distractions that keep you from the work you were called to do. And when you finally cut the noise, your life opens up in ways you never imagined. Silence also strengthens your resilience. The more you keep your plans to yourself, the more you rely on your own instincts, your own discipline, and your own strategy. Why? Oh, stop looking for external validation and start trusting your own judgment. That's how real leaders are made. That's how dreams survive the criticism, the doubt, and the naysayers. You realize that the only approval you truly need is from yourself and the universe guiding you. Let me tell you about energy, because this is important. Energy is contagious, but it's also limited. Every word you speak, every fight you pick, every person you try to convince drains your energy. And energy is what gets things done. It's what fuels consistency, discipline, creativity, and execution. So when you stay silent, you protect your energy. You invest it where it counts, into building, into learning, into growing. And when the work finally pays off, your energy spent wisely multiplies tenfold. I want you to hear me on this. Results speak louder than explanations. You can talk all day about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how much effort you're putting in, but nobody truly pays attention until they see results. And results don't lie. Results don't need to justify themselves. Results command respect naturally. So instead of wasting your breath, invest in action. Let your grind, your hustle, your consistency, and your perseverance do the talking for you. That's real power. People will test you. They will push you to share, to justify, to defend yourself. Some will even call you cold, distant, or selfish. That's because they're uncomfortable with the fact that you're protecting your energy and your vision. But the moment you understand that their discomfort is not your responsibility, you begin to operate on a level that most people will never reach. You stop reacting to chaos. You stop giving power to distractions. You stop diluting your focus. And what happens then? You begin to thrive. You begin to rise. You begin to attract the people and opportunities aligned with your purpose. Silence also teaches humility. When you're quiet about your work, you stay humble in your process. You understand that it's not about impressing others. It's about progressing yourself. You learn that leadership isn't about telling people how great you are. It's about showing up consistently, doing the work, and letting the impact speak for itself. And that's the kind of respect that can't be bought, faked, or forced. It's earned. So remember this, not everyone deserves access to your plans, your dreams, or your energy. Protect yourself. Focus on yourself. Stay quiet. Work harder than anyone can see. Pray harder than anyone can know. Sacrifice smarter than anyone can measure. And watch what happens. Because one day, your silence will turn into results so big, so undeniable, that people who doubted you will have no choice but to recognize the greatness they ignored. And that right there, my friends, is the ultimate power move. When you stay silent, you don't lose control. You gain it. When you keep your plans to yourself, you don't isolate. You strategize. When you focus on yourself, you don't become selfish. You become unstoppable. And in a world full of noise, the person who can stay quiet, focused, and disciplined is the one who eventually wins. Protect your vision. Guard your energy. Focus on yourself. And let the world watch in awe as your results do the talking. That's the power of silence. That's the power of focus. That's how dreams survive. That's how legends are made. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey. Let me break something down for you real clear today. Results speak louder than explanations. A lot of people get caught up in talking about what they're doing, why they were doing it, who they're doing it for, and how hard they're working. And while all that chatter might make you feel important, it doesn't actually move your life forward. Results are the real proof. Results don't need a microphone. Results don't need a spotlight. Results don't need permission. Results just show up and demand attention. And that's why you have to learn how to stay silent and let your work do the talking. See, I've noticed this pattern in life. People who talk the loudest are often doing the least. They want validation before they've even put in the work. They want applause before they've earned it. But the people making real progress, you rarely hear them talking about it. They're too busy grinding. They're too busy improving. They're too busy making their actions match their intentions. And when they finally show up in a way that matters, everybody suddenly notices. But by then, it's too late to catch up because results are hard to fake. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. Some people will never understand your vision. Some people will never support your journey. And some people will try to bring you down just because they're uncomfortable with your potential. But when your life starts producing undeniable results, it shuts down all the noise. People who doubted you will either step aside or they will respect what they can't argue against. That's the beauty of letting your work speak louder than words. I want you to think, Abu, this for a second. Every day you spend explaining yourself to people who don't understand. It was a day you could have spent building. Every minute you spend defending your choices is a minute you could have spent improving your skills, learning something new, or taking action on your goals. The truth is, your energy is precious. Don't waste it on people who aren't invested in your growth. Conserve it, protect it, put it to work in ways that actually make a difference. Let me tell you something about patience and timing. When you stay silent and focused, you're giving yourself the time to mature your results. Some things take time to develop. Some victories require months, even years of unseen work. And if you keep talking about what you're doing before it's ready, you risk attracting negativity, doubt, or interference that could slow you down. Silence is not just about holding your tongue. It's about holding your strategy until the moment is right. And when the right moment comes, your results will have all the impact you've been waiting for. Think about history's greatest achievers. They didn't spend all day announcing their plans. They didn't feel the need to justify themselves to critics. They moved quietly, consistently, and with purpose. And then when the results appeared, the world had no choice but to take notice. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You want to be unstoppable? Focus, work, stay silent. Let the output of your effort be the loudest statement anyone will ever hear. There's another layer to this. Staying silent builds credibility. When you constantly talk, people start questioning whether your words match your actions. But when you work quietly, when you consistently deliver, people begin to trust that what you say matters because it aligns with what you do. Credibility isn't built on how well you can explain your intentions. It's built on how consistently you deliver results. And when you master that, you become untouchable in your field, in your circle, and in your life. And let's get real about distractions. The more you talk about your progress, the more noise you attract. You attract opinions, advice, and criticism, some helpful, some harmful, and some straight up toxic. But when you stay silent, you control your narrative. You filter who has access to your energy and who doesn't. You create a bubble where focus, growth, and execution take priority over gossip, jealousy, and unnecessary commentary. Your silence becomes a shield that protects what's most valuable: your vision, your momentum, and your peace of mind. I also need you to understand that results inspire others more than words ever could. People don't change because of a motivational speech they hear once. People change because they see someone living proof of what's possible. They get inspired when they witness someone putting in the work day after day, quietly, diligently, and successfully. Your results have the power to influence, to lead, and to transform without you ever needing to explain yourself. That's real leadership. That's real impact. Let me tell you about respect, because results command it in a way words never can. When you deliver consistently, when you show up with excellence, when you accomplish things that matter, people can't argue with it. They may have doubted you. They may have judged you. They may have tried to bring you down. But the truth is, actions always speak louder than opinions, and results always speak louder than explanations. Silence gives your results room to shine. Silence gives your work authority. Silence lets you operate from a place of power. And here's the secret that a lot of people miss. The louder you need to explain yourself, the weaker your position usually is. Confidence doesn't need a megaphone. Strength doesn't need an audience. Greatness doesn't need validation. Real results don't require commentary. So when you focus on your work, stay quiet and let the results show you're actually doing more than building success. You are building respect, credibility, and influence simultaneously. So listen to me carefully. Stop wasting your breath. Stop explaining, defending, and oversharing. Stop trying to prove yourself to people who will never understand your journey. Instead, focus on producing results. Put in the work. Show up every day, disciplined and intentional. Stay consistent even when no one is watching. Keep your plans close. Protect your energy. Let your growth speak louder than your words. And one day, when people see what you've accomplished, they'll understand that silence and focus were your ultimate weapons all along. Because at the end of the day, results don't lie. Results don't need permission. Results don't care about opinions. Results are proof that effort, discipline, and quiet focus always win. And if you can master the art of letting your results do the talking, I promise you, nobody will ever be able to underestimate you again.